Hi all, welcome back. In today's video, we will be discussing about the one of the important decisions of a data engineer when he is designing a pipeline, that is choosing the right data format. We will be going to compare all the four different commonly used data formats, namely CSV, JSON, Parquet, and Avro. We will understand how they differ and where each format is useful. So first thing, before looking at the individual formats, let's understand what we are going to compare. So we will look into the formats based on the five important factors, that is structure, performance, compression, and the best use cases. Because choosing a file format isn't just about whether the file can store the data. The format you choose can directly affect the performance and the cost of the entire data pipeline. So why does this file format even matters, right? So imagine as a data engineer, you have billions of records in your data lake. If you choose an inefficient format, you may end up transferring more data over the network, consuming more storage, and making Spark or SQL queries slower. On the other hand, the right format can significantly improve query performance and reduce the storage cost. So your file format can affect things like Spark job, performance, storage cost, query speed, network input output, and even schema evolution. That's why this is not just the file storage decision, it's a data engineering design decision. First thing, let's start with the most familiar format, that is CSV. CSV stands for comma separated values. It's simple, text based, and the row oriented format. One of the biggest advantages of CSV is simplicity. Almost every enterprise system can generate or consume CSV files, and you don't need any specialized technology to open one. But there are some limitations also. CSV doesn't enforce schema or data types. It also does not naturally support nested structures, and large CSV files are generally inefficient for analytical workloads. So, CSV is widely supported, but it is not usually the best choice for large scale analytics. So, let us look into a real world example with CSV. Imagine you're working with a legacy ERP system. Every night, that system generates a CSV file containing customer or transaction data that drops it onto a FTP server. Your batch ETL pipeline picks up that file and lands it into the raw zone, something like ADLS or Amazon S3. From there, you validate the data, apply the required data types and transformations, and finally load it into a warehouse such as Snowflake or SQL Server. This is a very common use case for a CSV. Now, there is an important point. CSV is an excellent option for ingestion or landing format, especially when you're receiving data from vendors, legacy applications, or external systems. But you don't necessarily want to keep your analytical data in CSV. The approach would be like the incoming data from the source system is coming in CSV, landed into the raw zone, then the transformation takes place. Once the data is transferred, it is stored in the Parquet or the Delta format, and then from here it is taken to the analytical stream. So here the question might be why? Because Parquet gives a better compression. Let us see this in the upcoming slides. Think of a CSV primarily as a simple interchange and ingestion format rather than an ideal analytical storage format. So let us go with the next one, that is JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Unlike CSV, JSON is semi-structured and can represent nested and the variable data structures. This makes the JSON extremely useful when dealing with APIs, application logs, and event data. For example, an API response might contain a customer object with nested address information, multiple orders, and other nested attributes. JSON can represent these kind of structures naturally. Another advantage is that tools like Spark can infer the schema while reading JSON data. But JSON has some trade-offs also. Because the field names and the structural information can be represented across the records, JSON can become much larger than binary formats. Let's take a real world scenario or an example to understand it. Suppose you're building a data platform for an application. Your ingestion layer receives the data from three sources: a REST API, application log, and the CDC events coming through Kafka. These events may all arrive as JSON. You can land those JSON files directly into your data lake. Then Spark can read these files and infer the nested schema. This makes JSON a very convenient format for ingestion layer, especially when the incoming data is semi-structured. But again, when we should use JSON for analytics? JSON is great for ingestion, but it is not necessarily best format for large scale analytics. As the volume increases, repeatedly scanning JSON can become expensive. So here the common architecture followed would be the files arrive in JSON into the raw data lake, transform it into the Parquet or the Delta format, and use it for analytics. So in CRISP, JSON is often the format that comes into the platform, while Parquet or Delta becomes the format for the analytics to run on. Let's see the next format. That's the Parquet. Parquet is very different from CSV and JSON. It's a columnar binary storage format designed for analytics. And this is where things become interesting, especially for data engineers. Parquet supports things like column pruning and predicate pushdown. It also provides excellent compression and efficient reads. This is why Parquet becomes one of the most commonly used formats in the modern data lakes and lakehouse architectures. But still, there are some trade-offs of Parquet, like it isn't human readable and it isn't designed for free single record updates. You also need to pay attention to small file problems while working with large scale distributed systems. You also need to pay attention to the small file problem when working with large scale distributed systems. Let's understand this with an example, and we will also understand why Parquet is fast. Considering a scenario, imagine a Parquet dataset is having 40 columns and your dashboards only needs 3 to 4 of them. With columnar format like Parquet, the processing engine doesn't necessarily need to read all these 40 columns. It can only read the required columns. This whole process is called as column pruning. Similarly, the predicate push down allows filtering conditions to be pushed closer to the data source so that the unnecessary data doesn't have to be read. So in the whole process, this dramatically reduces the amount of data that needs to be scanned. So this is why the Parquet is so common in modern data engineering. You will see Parquet used with technologies like Spark, Databricks, Data Lake, Delta Lake, and external analytical tables. If your workload is primarily analytical, then you're processing large volumes of data. Parquet is usually one of the strongest choices. And when combined with proper partitioning, it becomes extremely effective for large scale analytical workloads. Moving on, or a next format, that is Avro data format, that's Avro. Avro is a compact row based binary format with strong support for schema evolution. This makes it particularly useful for streaming and event driven architectures. One of Avro's major strengths is that schema can evolve over time without necessarily breaking existing consumers. Avro is also compact and designed for high throughput data exchange. It works particularly well with technologies such as Kafka, Confluent, Schema Registry. Downsides of Avro. Avro isn't again human readable format. It is not efficient as Parquet for large analytical column scans. So let's look at an example of the Avro. Taking an example, multiple microservices continuously producing order events. These events are published to Kafka and serialized using Avro. The schema is managed using schema registry. Now imagine 6 months later, the application team needs to add a new field to the order event. With proper schema evolution, producers and consumers can continue communicating without breaking the entire pipeline. This is one of the major reasons Avro is useful for event-driven architectures, Kafka pipelines, and CDC workloads. But just like CSV and JSON, Avro doesn't necessarily have to be final analytical format. For example, you might follow a medallion architecture where streaming events arrive as Avro in bronze layer. Then you transform the data into Parquet or Delta for the silver and gold layers. So the format can change as the data moves through your architecture. The important thing here is to choose the format based on what you're going to do with the data next. So finally, let's see which format should be used when as a conclusion. If you're receiving multiple simple files from the vendors or the legacy systems, CSV is the best choice. If we are working with APIs, application logs, or semi-structured events, then JSON is a strong choice. Basically, for large analytical queries. If you want to work with the large scale analytical workloads like Spark, Databricks, Snowflake, data lakes, then Parquet would be a good choice because it allows the frequent single record updates. And if you're working with Kafka, CDC, or an event driven streaming where schema evolution is important, then Avro is one of the best choice. So there isn't only one format that is best for everything. The right choice depends on your data characteristics, access pattern, processing requirements, and the downstream system. So finally, don't choose a file format just because it's popular. Choose it based on how data will be used next. If your data is going to be queried heavily, think about the analytical formats like Parquet. If you're ingesting semi-structured data like API data, then JSON makes sense. If you're processing events through Kafka, then Avro would be a stronger option. So remember, match the access pattern and the format often picks itself. So if you found this video useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Column pruning.